Your dog secretly judges you every day. Want proof? Every single time you grab your keys, zip up your bag, or put on your shoes, your dog is watching, not in a cute, admiring way, in a calculating way. They're reading you like a book, tracking every move, building a mental map of what comes next. And what comes next in their mind is the worst thing imaginable, you leaving. Now here's the part nobody talks about. When you come home to a chewed-up couch, shredded pillows, or a demolished trash can, your first instinct is probably to think your dog did it on purpose, like they sat there, calm and collected, and decided, you know what, I'm going to make them pay. But science says something completely different. Today we're getting into the real psychology behind why your dog destroys things the moment you walk out that door and exactly what you can do to stop it. This is not revenge, this is panic, and your dog needs your help. Let's start with what's actually happening inside your dog's brain when you leave. Dogs are social animals wired for connection. In the wild, separation from the pack meant danger, vulnerability, potential death. So when your dog watches you disappear out the front door, their nervous system doesn't just get a little sad, it can go into full-blown crisis mode. According to research published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior, approximately 17% of dogs meet the clinical criteria for separation anxiety, and a much larger percentage shows subclinical stress responses that owners regularly mistake for bad behavior. The destruction isn't random. It isn't targeted at your throw pillow because your dog has a grudge. It's what happens when anxiety gets so overwhelming that chewing and movement become the only outlet available. Your dog does this too? Let's keep going because understanding the why completely changes the how. Here's something that surprises almost every dog owner. The destruction almost always happens within the first 30 minutes of you leaving. Researchers who used cameras to monitor dogs during owner absences, yes, that is someone's actual job, and it sounds amazing, found that peak destructive behavior occurs in that critical early window. Why? Because that's when your dog's cortisol levels, the stress hormone, are spiking the hardest. Picture your dog pacing near the door, ears back, tail low, and then their brain essentially yells, chew something, move something, do anything. The chewing provides a physical release of that tension. It is not malicious, it is coping. Imagine if every time you got anxious, you had to chew something to feel better. Actually, some of us do, and we call it stress eating, and we fully understand it. Your dog is doing the exact same thing, just with your couch cushion instead of a bag of chips. Your dog does this too? Now let's talk about anticipatory anxiety, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Your dog isn't just stressed when you're gone. They start stressing before you even leave. Applied animal behavior science research has documented that dogs with separation-related behaviors begin showing physiological stress markers during what researchers call departure cues. These are the little rituals you don't even think about. You pick up your keys, stress signal. You put on your jacket, stress signal. You check your phone one last time before heading out, stress signal. Over time, your dog has built a chain of associations where each action predicts your disappearance, and their anxiety activates earlier and earlier in the sequence. Does your dog follow you to the bathroom and stare at you with that intense expression? That is not just love, that is surveillance. And honestly, if dogs could talk, yours would have a very detailed dossier on your morning routine. Here's something most people completely misunderstand: the greeting ritual when you come home. You walk in the door, your dog goes absolutely wild, jumping, spinning, crying, and you think, how sweet, they missed me so much, and they did. But that intensity is actually one of the clearest indicators of how much distress they experienced during your absence. Research in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior found a significant correlation between the intensity of greeting behavior and the severity of separation-related distress. A relaxed dog greets you happily but calmly. A dog who spent the last 2 hours in an anxiety spiral greets you like they just survived a natural disaster. So if your dog acts like you've been gone for 40 years every time you leave for 20 minutes, that's data. That's your dog filing a stress report. Your dog does this too? Let's get into something called pre-departure desensitization, which sounds technical, but is one of the most practical tools you have. The idea is simple. You break the association between your departure cues and the anxiety response by repeatedly performing those cues without actually leaving. Pick up your keys and then sit back down on the couch.
Put on your jacket, walk to the door, and then take it off and make coffee. Do this dozens of times over several weeks. At first, your dog will still react with visible stress, but gradually their brain learns that keys don't always mean abandonment. Applied animal behavior science literature identifies this as one of the highest evidence interventions for separation-related behavior. And honestly, the funniest part of this process is your dog's face. They will look at you with absolute bewilderment. Wait, we're not leaving? But the jacket is on. You're gaslighting your dog in the most therapeutic way imaginable. Now, here's one of the most counterproductive things well-meaning owners do, the dramatic goodbye. You know the one. You crouch down, hold their face in your hands, and tell them you'll be back soon in a voice like you're leaving for war. And your dog, reading your emotional energy the whole time, thinks they are clearly very upset. This is something to panic about. Research consistently shows that low-key departures, where you simply leave without extended emotional interaction, result in faster post-departure calm and lower overall stress markers. A quick, cheerful, completely casual "see ya," and then you're gone. That is actually the kindest goodbye you can give an anxious dog. It feels cold. It is the opposite of cold. It is science-backed compassion in disguise. Here's another thing the research is crystal clear on. Punishing your dog after the fact does absolutely nothing to reduce separation anxiety. When you come home to destruction and give a stern look, your dog connects that moment to nothing they did earlier. Their memory doesn't work that way. What they experience is their safe person, the one whose return they've been desperately waiting for, coming home and immediately being upset. This increases anxiety around your departures and returns. Journal of Veterinary Behavior studies tracked dogs whose owners used punishment-based responses after absences and found higher, not lower, rates of subsequent destructive behavior. You are reinforcing the anxiety cycle without meaning to. This isn't blame, it's just neuroscience. Your dog does this too? Let's talk about exercise, because its role here is enormous and consistently underestimated. A dog who has been adequately exercised before you leave has lower baseline cortisol, higher serotonin, and a nervous system genuinely better equipped to handle stress. Recent applied animal behavior science research found a significant correlation between pre-departure activity and separation-related behavior severity. A tired dog is a dog whose stress threshold is higher, whose rest comes more naturally, and who has burned through the physiological arousal that would otherwise express itself as panic-driven chewing. Morning walks before you leave aren't just good for their body, they're neurological preparation for the emotional challenge of your absence. Think of it as loading your dog up with internal resources for the hardest part of their day. One more thing, and this one matters. Safe spaces make a measurable difference. Dogs with a comfortable, familiar space that smells like you, your worn t-shirt in their bed, for example, show statistically lower anxiety indicators during owner absences in controlled studies. Your scent alone can function as a co-regulatory signal, communicating safety even when you're not physically present. Journal of Veterinary Behavior researchers documented lower cortisol levels in separated dogs when an owner-scented item is present. So leaving a piece of your clothing with your dog, that's not folk wisdom, that's neuroscience delivered through your laundry basket. Add a puzzle feeder or a long-lasting chew to that space, and you're giving their brains something constructive to do during those first high-anxiety minutes, redirecting the need to cope towards something that isn't your furniture. Here's the full picture. Your dog is not plotting revenge. They're not making a statement. They're a deeply social creature who loves you more than they have language to express. And when you leave, their nervous system genuinely struggles. The destruction is fear made physical. The anxiety is love without a safe container. Now that you understand the cortisol spike, the departure cues, the anticipatory stress, the greeting as a stress report, you have something far more powerful than frustration. You have understanding. Pre-departure desensitization, low-key goodbyes, morning exercise, safe scented spaces, not overnight fixes, but backed by real behavioral science, and they work. Your dog is not broken, they're anxious, and anxious dogs with patient, informed owners absolutely get better. If this video helped you see your pup differently today, drop a like. Subscribe for weekly dog psychology content, and tell me in the comments what's the weirdest thing your dog has ever destroyed while you were out. I'll read every single one. See you in the next one.